When Carlos Ghosn arrived in Japan in 1999, Nissan was spiraling. Crushed under $22 billion in debt, struggling with an aging product lineup, and paralyzed by a rigid hierarchy, the automaker was on life support. But Ghosn didn't come to nurse it back to health gently. He came with a scalpel and a deadline. In just months, he would become both a savior and a symbol of disruption. What followed was a corporate upheaval so radical that it changed Japanese business forever. Ghosn's first act was audacious. He promised to restore profitability in just 1 year. His Nissan revival plan, unveiled in October 1999, called for sweeping changes, cutting 21,000 jobs, shutting down 5 factories, and slashing Nissan's supplier network by nearly half. But beneath these headline-grabbing cuts lay a deeper, more surgical transformation. Nissan's supply chain, long built on the Keiretsu model, was dismantled. Ghosn argued that blind loyalty to underperforming suppliers was bleeding the company dry. From now on, contracts would be awarded based on cost, quality, and delivery, not on tradition. Ghosn's challenge wasn't just financial. It was cultural. He didn't speak Japanese. He didn't bow in meetings. He questioned authority and demanded results. This was anathema in a business culture that prized harmony over confrontation and process over speed. He abolished Nissan's seniority-based promotion system, replacing it with a merit-based structure. He forced executives to take ownership, literally, tying compensation to performance metrics and giving department heads full P&L responsibility. This decentralized structure was revolutionary. Cross-functional teams were introduced, 70 in total, each charged with dismantling inefficiencies across product development, manufacturing, sales, and marketing. For many, it was the first time engineers were speaking directly with marketers or financial planners. Under Ghosn, Nissan didn't just cut costs, it rediscovered its soul. Product innovation was reinvigorated. He empowered design teams in Atsugi and California to develop new models that blended style with performance. The result? The rebirth of the Nissan Altima and the creation of hits like the 350Z and Murano. Design language became sharper. Technology became more central. Ghosn emphasized global platforms, engineering flexible architecture that allowed multiple models to share parts and reduce costs. By fiscal year 2001, Nissan had posted a $2.7 billion profit. It had not only hit its targets, it had done so a full year ahead of schedule. As the turnaround accelerated, Carlos Ghosn's image in Japan morphed into legend. He was dubbed Kaikaku no Mao, the demon of reform. But unlike typical villains, he was admired for his ruthlessness. His biography became a bestseller. He was turned into a manga hero. Universities invited him to speak about globalization and leadership. And most importantly, Japanese CEOs began rethinking decades of insular management. Ghosn wasn't just reshaping Nissan, he was reshaping Japan's perception of foreign leadership. In 2001, Renault elevated Ghosn to CEO. That made him the de facto ruler of both automakers. With his dual mandate, he pioneered a never-before-seen corporate model, the Renault-Nissan Alliance. Unlike mergers that consume identities, Ghosn built a shared ecosystem with dual autonomy. Nissan and Renault retained separate brands, headquarters, and engineering cultures, but they shared production platforms, procurement, and leadership development. Through this structure, Ghosn had created a globally competitive powerhouse that could challenge General Motors, Toyota, and Volkswagen. But this unusual arrangement also concentrated power in one man's hands. Too much, some would later argue. Yet in the shadows of triumph, tensions festered. Japanese executives who had once quietly resisted now began to conspire. To them, Ghosn was no longer a foreign savior. He was a foreign occupier. The alliance wasn't an equal partnership, they argued. Nissan, once rescued, was now subordinated. Some government officials, too, feared that Japan's industrial sovereignty was being eroded. Behind Ghosn's charm and charisma, they saw an empire builder. And empires, they knew, eventually provoke rebellion. Carlos Ghosn had done the impossible, resurrected a dying company, challenged cultural orthodoxy, and built a cross-continental alliance. But the very strength of his vision, centralized, uncompromising, and bold, had also made him a target. In the next episode of Dealmaker Diaries, we explore how Ghosn's global ambition pushed the alliance to new heights, and how political, personal, and corporate forces began plotting his downfall.